Hello and welcome back to the Ideal Nutrition Podcast. My name is Torwen Eerkens and I'm joined by my co-host Aidan Muir. Today we want to give you our thoughts on whether it is worth testing your gut microbiome. Now the obvious place to start is, what is your gut microbiome? So it's the community of trillions of bacteria, fungi and other microbes that live in your digestive tract, specifically your colon. And they play a lot of roles. They help with digestion, nutrient absorption, immune function, gut lining health, and they can also influence things like mood and metabolism. Now, when we talk about testing your gut microbiome, the aim here is often to analyse the types and amounts of these organisms that are present in your gut. So what beneficial bacteria have you got? What potentially harmful bacteria have you got? And what is the ratio of these things?
So when we're looking at the theoretical benefits, one of them is that you could identify gaps or issues to address. This is more specific to the bacteria side of things. And an example I have often used is, we know with IBS specifically that there are certain imbalances that are quite common. Like there are some population groups of bacteria that are often a lot lower in those with IBS, and then vice versa, and some that are a lot higher. And it would immediately make you think, could we just address those gaps? And it looks pretty promising. I have a lot of thoughts on where we're at today, but like, you can see how there's like potential there, right? You could see how specific targeted approaches could address those issues in a very individualized way. So rather than being like a lot of these things people have in common, you could be like, what does this person lack or whatever? That could then lead to tailoring certain probiotic and also prebiotic choices, whether we're talking through food or whether we're talking through supplements as well. It could also theoretically identify certain risk factors unrelated to IBS, but other conditions, often related to dysbiosis, which is this imbalance of the microbiome as well. And that could be for other GI issues or other metabolic conditions. Another example of this is identifying parasites, for example, is another thing on the list too. And another benefit is it could be helpful for tracking stuff over time as well.
That was going to be my last thing, is if you have a look at what sort of microbes are present or what like balance there is between the two. If you do these like interventions and then track it again after, what are the changes that have been made? So these are theoretical benefits. When we look at the types of tests that are available, there are definitely limitations to a lot of them. Some have positives and some are a bit limited. So we're going to run through a few that are available and what our thoughts are on each of those. So in terms of the most common one that I've seen available to the public that you can buy, you give a stool sample and then you get a result, is what we call a 6S RNA sequencing. So it looks at just bacteria, gives you a broad overview of the bacterial groups that you have in your microbiome by analysing a certain gene. Now, this is pretty affordable and I guess it can be good for general patterns, but it is pretty limited in detail.
And the other one's metagenomic sequencing?
Yeah, that's one of the other ones.
Yeah, do you want to go through that as well?
Yeah, so this one's a bit more advanced and it looks at all of the genetic material in your sample. So it shows more. So it shows bacteria, fungi, viruses, other microbes, and then potentially also their metabolic functions in your body, which obviously is much more detailed. It's a lot more comprehensive. It's a lot more expensive. And it shows more of the potential function of those microbes in your body rather than like real-time activity, which can be hard to see. The last one I'll just quickly add in there as well is what we call QMP, so quantitative microbiome profiling, and it measures more of a microbial load. So again, looking at a stool, what's the amount of bacteria in a gram of your stool? And this can give you a bit more of an idea of the abundance of species that you have in your body. So regular testing of this one might give you an idea of whether you've got normal or abnormal levels of these species and whether it's overgrowth or undergrowth, that sort of thing. But it's, again, still early stage clinical trials, this one, and not many labs offer this.
Yeah, when I was going through specific companies and being like what tests they do, I didn't see that one very often. I saw a major company, Zoe, they do metagenomic sequencing. Another major company, Viome, they do RNA sequencing. And yeah, so like some companies are definitely using those things and they have different pros and cons and everything like that as well. Do we want to go down the company route or do we want to talk about other stuff?
I don't think so. Alternatives to testing, or whether we think that, like we said, we gave the benefits of testing. Do we think it's always necessary to test, and what else can we look at for gut health? For me personally, I think it might not be the first thing that I would recommend. A lot of other things can give you an indication of overall gut health. So a structured food and symptom diary, potentially just already starting with fibre introduction, diversity, probiotics, prebiotics, to see how you can improve symptoms through that before doing microbiome testing.
That does lead to another point of, is there anywhere where you think testing might be useful?
I probably would if there's been ongoing issues,
Yep.
and there's no clear reason. So we've ruled out more sinister things, and there's still no clear reason. Maybe you've tried eliminating foods, you're still not feeling great. Then I would probably say, yeah, it may be worth doing a test.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that as well. And particularly if it ideally comes back with stuff that you can action. I think that's the main one. That's where I'd use it. Now I'm going to go a tiny bit broader. I think that there can be a world in which these are even more useful in the future than where they're at now. I'm indirectly working with a company that is doing this stuff, and like I wouldn't be indirectly working with them if I thought these were like terrible or anything like that. But something I found that's pretty interesting through this, and I suppose it's another reason that a lot of people find benefit from as well, is like overall engagement as well. So like I'll go one direction of this, then go back to that. So the one direction is sometimes people make fun of a certain company's microbiome testing because they're like, it just always comes back telling me to eat more fruits and vegetables. And with this other company that I'm working with, I saw somebody's test literally yesterday. I was looking at it and it was super in detail. It was talking about like all of the bacteria and all of these things. They did like retesting and a bunch of stuff to like get the accuracy. They tested with a bunch of different companies to see how accurate it was and everything. But with this specific company, they had a bit of a form that like said what he's already doing well and stuff like that, and it made it seem like he was doing certain activities that were tied with like having a good amount of lactobacillus, for example. And it said that his microbiome is like set up to like be well equipped to tolerate like resistant starch well, but it had features showing that he basically doesn't eat resistant starch. And it's like that's one of the feedbacks, like have resistant starch. And some of the other feedback was related to have like more probiotic rich foods. Another thing is, although there was like high amounts of certain populations, was like he needs more variety because it's actually a little bit skewed towards two specific populations. And it's interesting because that does go back to just eat more fruits and vegetables, because it's like resistant starch. It's good for most people, right? We look at the fact that most people should have some form of probiotic coming in, ideally through food, if not supplements that are targeted or whatever. And we think people should have diversity of their diet. I tell you what, though, this guy's going to do those things. Maybe not as much as he should, but he's going to take steps. I'm pretty confident of that.
Yeah, so that's actually some pretty actionable things that you can be doing, which is a positive. Just coming back to, I think when you have clients who are motivated by data and they're wanting to improve gut health, this can be another thing that just, it's something for them to track. Gut health is such a hard thing to track apart from symptoms. So if we have something that is giving accurate sort of information on how we can track our gut health, why not?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think doing it in the least like woo-woo way possible. Another thing, and I'm giving feedback to this company, but like another thing that was on there was it said that he's a carb specialist. And I'm like, let's just like take that out and let's like, the rest is great.
Almost there. Almost there.
Absolutely. And I'm obviously not naming the company because I don't want to platform anyone on this, right? And yeah, so like alternatives to testing, I think you covered that. Like I just think like improving diet in general is a good idea. Fiber intake, variety, exercise, stress management, identifying intolerances if you have them through elimination style stuff, like all of those things. I would do that in the majority of cases, but I'm also not opposed to getting data just for the sake of data as well. And also if you have tried other stuff too. So I suppose that's probably like a key takeaway from like where we're at in the research and everything like that. I would never want to be super anti this stuff as well, because I do think there's heaps in the future, even more broadly with this. And it's like, well, people have to be out there doing this for us to make progress on that front as well. So this has been episode 238 on whether it's worth testing your gut microbiome. As always, if you could please leave a rating and review, we would massively appreciate that.